go over to a album that came out 4 years after that. What was the world going to expect from another release from Slipknot? Well, they could expect All Hope Is Gone. And again, proving that there was still steam in this machine. This was not a burnt out band by any means. And they come back now showing like, hey, we've proven to you we can do different, or we can experiment. We can go extremely heavy. We can also appeal to the rock side of things in mainstream radio. Why don't we see what would happen if we kind of take all those elements and put it together in an album known as All Hope Is Gone? And that's exactly what you get, whether it be the heavier side of things on, again, there's heavier than Psychosocial, but as far as a first release off this album, Psychosocial was a pretty heavy start to things. Dead Memories got good airplay. Sulfur got good airplay. But track after track after track is great. And then they have this song on this album called Snuff. Snuff. Yeah. And this, again, there's a lot of people that hate this and a lot of people that throw out if they're going to do this, why don't they just leave it to Corey to do in Stone Sour? No, because this still is Slipknot. Even when they do this, it still sounds like Slipknot. And Snuff is possibly one of the most beautifully crafted songs by a heavy metal band, especially one that goes out there and presents themselves the way that Slipknot does, can play this and have an audience eating out of their palm of their hands. Because when the wife and I saw this at Knotfest, played live for the first time in ages, it was a thing of absolute beauty as the crowd sang along to this masterpiece of a track.
This entire album, again, was great. Were there a few that were kind of, definitely there was. For me, Butcher's Hook, The Cold Black, right? Really ones that I didn't feel. I wasn't feeling, I wasn't resonating with. They were skippable. I'll put it that way. They were skippable.
That's
for
fair.
me.
Yeah.
Right. But when you've got other ones on there like Snuff, like All Hope Is Gone, like probably one of the biggest songs for them with Psychosocial.
Gematria, the Killing Name, is an absolute face melter to start that album off with, too.
That doesn't get the love it should, I think. Right. Yeah. And I think that may be because, yes, it is a little bit of a longer song. It is like 6 minutes. People are generally happy with 4.5, pushing 5. But when you start going over that, people tend to kind of lose a little bit. And I think that mentally that's what people were doing with this. But if you have the opportunity to, it's track number 2. Seriously, go back. Just put on a pair of headphones, close your eyes, listen to it, and actually feel the music itself that comes from that track. You will see it in a different light if you allow yourself to be in the moment with that song.
Yeah. And is it safe to say that Snuff is the standout on this album?
Definitely.
Snuff is pretty much a standout amongst their entire their library. So
yeah.
But I mean, you're right. There is so much good to say about it, but possibly the first time where I found a couple that I could get past, like yourself, where it's like, okay, they're not bad songs. They're just not quite hitting as well as some of the other work does.
Right. Yeah. And it was the same for me. Just kind of, they were skippable.
Yeah.
Which sucks to say about Slipknot, but it happens. It happens with I am a huge Korn fan. My favorite band is Korn, and I even have some albums where I'm like, nope, that one's skippable. So it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, being a fan of a band, you're not going to love everything. I mean, you might you might, but it's usually a stretch to love every single piece of all time kind of thing. So going into the next one, Karl, this is what we call the gray chapter, chapter 5. This was a very dark, very sad time as members of the known maggots that we are. The Slipknot band, as we knew it, was about to change, although they said it would never work without the 9. We were about to find out whether or not that could be possible, because 2 tragedies. One, the removal of Joey Jordison on the drums with no real say as to why this happened. This came shortly after the release of this album, if I'm not mistaken, prior to the next release. But also the passing of Paul Gray, the original bassist from Slipknot. A very sad time, and people wondering what was going to happen when they made their album dedication to their fallen member, Paul Gray. And what we got was the Gray chapter. What we got was another solid ass release from one of the greatest metal bands of all damn time. And again, I say this with great love because there is stuff that they still to this day play a lot of this album. We're talking the Negative One, Custer, The Devil and I, all being regulars in their set list. But then you start thinking there's songs like Kill Pop on here, which was so different. So incredibly different, but so good. Sarcastrophe, such a great song. AOV, like this album to me is definitely better than the previous release, All Hope Is Gone. Not to say that, All Hope Is Gone has great moments and still very listenable. This one is another masterpiece from the group.
And it really seems to be that way with the fans as well, because everything that you mentioned there, I'm going to add in Skeptic and Goodbye. So I mean, we're looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tracks out of 17 on the album are technically considered hit singles. So
and the others are still, as far as I'm concerned, could be. Like the One That Kills the Least is such a beautiful piece of work as well too. If Rain Is What You Want, like it's, I mean, I don't think there is a bad track in the Gray chapter. I can listen to the Gray chapter front to back quite easily and happily.
I was just gonna say I have. I have. And like even just a week ago, I listened to it with my headphones on, front to back, and I didn't skip anything. I loved every single piece of it. It was just knowing as well. So I think that really helps, knowing that this was more of a dedication type of album for Paul, right? You kind of put a little bit more of an intention into listening to everything so that you can feel it and even maybe feel a little bit of what Paul Gray had possibly felt during his time with the band, and the hurt from the members of the band as well, the sorrow from them comes through in this album. If you listen to it, with an open heart and an open mind to it, you really do feel that as well.
Yeah, you really do. It's a beautiful piece of musical history. Again, it was also the opportunity once the tour started to kick off to not only see how their new bass player would do, but also the new drummer. Because again, Joey's parting at this point, and again, I will say at this point because we have since lost Joey Jordison as well too, unfortunately. However, at this point, Joey's removal from the band also left us wondering, Jay Weinberg? Huh? I believe this is the son of the drummer from Bruce Springsteen's band. And again, you sit there and go, huh? Of every drummer on the planet, like this is a weird choice, boys, but let's see how it goes. And holy shit, Jay Weinberg, So, like, he's getting thumbs up from me. I mean, I love Joey Jordison, but Jay Weinberg filled those kicks quite nicely.
Yep, he did. Yeah, son of Bruce Springsteen. No, son of the drummer from Bruce Springsteen, Max, right? Like having that musical background already inside the home to be able to bring it. And I mean, Bruce Springsteen is not metal at all. So, but just like my parents, my mom loves country music. Well, even though I was raised in a home that had country music playing all the time, didn't mean that I was going to get into country as well. I got into the rock and I got into the metal. So same thing here, right? Like no matter where it is that the music that you love is going to resonate with you. That's what happened here. And I'm very happy that it did, that they were able to find somebody that could still have that same intensity and that same love for the band and for the music, that we could continue to get face melting metal from Slipknot.
Yeah, very face melting metal from Slipknot, which wouldn't be followed up by an album that would be as face melting front to back, but would be a lot more experimental front to back and very different. Very, very different. And I'm not saying this in a negative way. Now, the next album on our list is We Are Not Your Kind. And I will say that I was surprised how much I enjoyed this album because I didn't know what to think going into it. First listen through this album, this didn't resonate with me immediately like some of the other albums have, but repeated listening of this album made me kind of uncover a hidden connection and a hidden love for what they have going on with some of the musical pieces throughout this thing. There is some heavy. So if you like the heavy, there is heavy within here. Some of the tracks really do hit very, very hard, but then some of them are very unique and very experimental. Spiders, for example, a very, very different track within this one. My Pain, that comes across very melodic and haunting and nice for a while at times, and then all of a sudden just there is some awesome stuff about We Are Not Your Kind. And after I got the time to sit down and listen to it enough, it really resonated. And then this one really sat up high for me. I love We Are Not Your Kind.
Is it one of my favorites? No, it isn't. Is it still a fantastic album? Damn right.
Oh, yeah.
I was very happy to see that, Slipknot came out with another album because we were starting to worry a little bit. So going from the Gray Chapter, that was 2014. And then we didn't get We Are Not Your Kind until 2019. So we're sitting there, 2 years goes by, and typically 2.5 years, another album comes out from a band.
Or at least rumblings.
Right. Yeah. Right. Which just seems to kind of be how things really go with a lot of different bands. But then it became 3 years, and then it was 4 years. And then the rumblings started, but they weren't about another album coming out. They were about, is that it that we're getting? Are they done?
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of my friends that are fans, that are heavy metal listeners, really talking about that, going, I wonder what's going on. Are they done? Is this what's happening? What's going on? I think it's over. And thankfully it wasn't.
Cool.
Coming with something, like you said, coming with something very different from Slipknot, especially with those slower, more melodic. A lot of people have kind of equated it to Stone Sour with, the gain turned up a little bit. Those are things that I have heard. I don't necessarily see that. I see a lot of, and I hear a lot of passion and heart coming into these songs that are there, that keep it Slipknot, but make it a different Slipknot.
A lot of people I heard making the reference of this being like volume 3.5. Somewhere that this sounds more like it should fall between volume 3 and All Hope Is Gone with the way that this was directed.
I feel that. I feel that. Yep.
Yeah. So that's I mean I can attest to that. I love this album. I really do. I know there are a lot of longer tracks on this one as well too, and they become very experimental. Even things like Not Long for This World, not a massive hit for the band, but I love it. Always will. And if you do have there's I think a bonus edition version of this where you can get the song All Out Life, which was released as a video, not on the regular tracking of this. And I want to come back to the hit song Unsainted on here, because this song at one point, being that we're wrestling guys, Karl, at one point in time, this song was being pitched to the WWE by the fallen Bray Wyatt to be the theme he wanted for the Fiend prior to the one that was created for him. He wanted them to shell the money for Unsainted, especially for the beginning piece with the, kind of the young, almost church-like choir that's doing the whole singing there. He thought that would have been perfect entrance. And I agree. Yeah. This song would have been a very nice touch to the Fiend presentation.
It definitely would have. 100% it would have. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they kind of use Unsainted a little bit within NXT, doing some NXT promotions? Okay.
I think it was actually used as a track for one of the shows or something like that, or something along those lines. It was one of the songs selected for a specific event or something. I
could be wrong, but I believe that it was more the transition period that was going on, right? So we had, with NXT, we had like the Dusty era that was kind of there, but then we had like Triple H coming in to kind of do some things. And it was right around that time that I remember Unsainted coming in, because they were trying to repackage the show as a little bit more main as opposed to breeding grounds type of situation. So they were using like, we are not your kind, right? Like that's what I remember from that. We are not your kind. We are not your kind, coming in and just being a game changer for NXT when it comes to the whole production and everything that happened and revolved around it. So kudos to them. And we know that Corey Taylor is a wrestling fan as well. He has been to some events. There was even an event that was going on. NXT was helping out and doing some shows on a music festival that Corey Taylor was sitting ringside for, and kind of got a little bit involved ish, which for me was like, yeah, of course, like this is awesome. Right. I digress. You talk about the different songs that are on this, and some that may be kind of out of the ordinary. For me, a big one was A Liar's Funeral. I just absolutely love, and I hope that more people will go and listen to A Liar's Funeral just to understand it a little better.
Yeah, it's almost like it comes across like a spoken word poem that then leads in to a very blood curdling scream, almost for help in a way, or to get a point across. It is such a masterpiece. I love it. Yeah, that's a great selection. Now, last but not least on the Slipknot venture here of their discography is the one that I can honestly say is probably going to divide many fans, whether or not they'll get those fans back when they put something else out. Their most recent release, known as hold on. The End So Far, I drew a blank there for a minute. The
Yep.
End So Far released just last year. People have been waiting a long time, waiting to see what Slipknot would come out with. This was the last album that was owed to Roadrunner Records under the contract that they were on. Excitement of a new era of Slipknot ahead of us. Hopefully that's the case, especially because The End So Far is my least favorite album so far. And while I positively reviewed it when it came out, because I still enjoy it, but I don't love it. And I'll say this now. This is probably a more true to form thing now that I've listened to it a bit more. The End So Far feels like tracks that didn't make the other albums. And it was put together because that's what they had to give to Roadrunner to get out of this thing, so that then they can go take their creative genius where they want to next without the interference of the record label anymore.
That's exactly it. And they kind of, in showman-like stature, used that to their advantage when it came to this record. So it was released on September 30th through Roadrunner.
Mm-hmm.
This is the band's final album to be released through Roadrunner Records, whom they signed with back in 1998. So there's a lot of different stuff that comes from this, and they used that 100% to their advantage. Talking about, for a while, people, thought that the album was, called The End for Now because there was misprints of things that were put out there. Corey's come out to say that, it was always supposed to be The End So Far, but it was just a misprint that happened. Corey Taylor even announcing during an interview with Eddie Trunk that the recording of the album was finished, and that he described it as a heavier version of Volume 3. So really kind of trying to push and really trying to sell people on this album before it was even released, and including all of the little bits and pieces in there about, we're done with Roadrunner, and now people are thinking that this is totally the end of Slipknot because they're no longer with Roadrunner, and then using to their advantage the end so far.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I think worked well for them when it came to the sale of the album. Now, unfortunately, this album that, is kind of dedicated to Joey Jordison didn't live up to the hype, didn't live up to what Corey had kind of given to us a little bit. It does feel as though this was we're going to be done with Roadrunner. We don't give a shit right now type of situation. And they were like, it's in the contracts. We got to put out one more album with Roadrunner. Let's just pump this shit out and get it over with.
Yeah.
That's what this album really feels like.
Yeah. And not to say there isn't good here, because again, the first 5 tracks, I would say, are solid enough to stand on their own. Medicine for the Dead's not bad, and the rest is it kind of just fades away to nothing memorable, I guess is the best way to put it. And even going back listening to the songs that are the hits, they're not up there with some of the other tracks that they've ever written. And I'm not trying to knock the band or the album. The album is not complete waste of your time. It's still worth listening to and checking out. I just know that I feel strongly that there is something better on the horizon when they come back next time around, and I can't wait for it.
You know what? I can't wait for it either. I really do feel that for Slipknot that this was just a throwaway album for them, where they were just kind of like, let's get some stuff together. Let's put it out. Hey, what do you have in, your bag of music over there? What kind of, lyrics have you got? What song have you written over there? Okay, let's just kind of come together super quick and let's get this done. But I can't even really say super quick because this took absolutely forever. It felt like it was 2 years of us hearing about this album coming out, and then it finally did, to it being the album that it is. But for them to have so far on the album title really does tell me that they're looking to make a huge impact when they do return to another album. This album, like you said, is not terrible. It's not the greatest in their discography at all. Chapeltown Rag, all right, not too bad. Acidic is where it kind of starts to wane a little bit for me, and it almost feels like they were even tired themselves, and it feels like it just continues on with the tired throughout the rest of the album. Not terrible, not the greatest. Definitely listen to it because your opinion could be very different from ours or from mine. So it's very subjective. You may like it. I'm not the biggest fan of it.
No, and again, like I said, I reference it as my least favorite, but that's only saying the least favorite out of a pile of amazing albums. But I'm an amazing band as well too. So it's really not a knock at them. I know that we're going to get stuff that's going to be right up my alley again from these guys. I have the utmost faith in that. So again, I will be right there rocking out to them every single step of the way. Now, I want to throw this one at you before we kind of wind down the show, though, because the band has mentioned at one point in time that seeing as it's been possible for them to replace members that were needing to be replaced at this point in time, they've talked about how Slipknot, much like maybe Gwar, will be able to replace members through time and allow Slipknot to continue to grow and adapt along the pathway with different members joining at different times. And this could inevitably mean the changing of vocalist Corey Taylor down the road when he decides not to do it anymore. Because even in a recent interview, I saw him talking about how much of a toll all of this touring and all of this jumping around on stages and all the crazy shenanigans that a band like Slipknot especially has gotten up to, the toll it's taken on his body, and how he says there is never a day where he's not an immense amount of pain, and how much longer can he continue to keep touring with a band that the expectation is high energy, crazy, absolutely over the top spectacles every single time. It might be eventually time for that mask to be hung up and not someone else to step in. Do you feel that could happen and that you could still remain a fan yourself?
It's really, really, really difficult. I'm going to put all the praise out there for Corey Taylor. I absolutely love his voice. I personally believe that he is one of the greatest voices of this era, right? You go back all the way back as far as okay, I'm going to use Dean Martin, right? Dean Martin is one of those names that you know the name Dean Martin, right? Yeah, and going all the way through history up until now, I put Corey Taylor in that same classification of highest standard and regard when it comes to a vocalist. If someone does take over and there is a changing of vocalists, I think it's going to be really hard for another vocalist to kind of capture what Corey has been able to do. Because for how long now have we known Corey Taylor as the voice of Slipknot? It would be a very big culture shock. I would definitely give it a chance. 100% I would. Until that day happens, though, I can't give you a full answer on that.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough moment in time when it does happen. Again, like you can make a short list of people that could take it over. His son being one of them. Again, go check out Bended, because you listen to his son and you're like, man, that's Corey. Like it sounds. Don't give her. He's not a replica, 100% replica, but you can still feel that power, that energy, and that passion that Corey brings to the table, and that talent is there as well too in his son. So again, I think there could be an argument made there that if someone along those lines, especially that had the tie into the original group, would be somebody you could look at. But that's hopefully a story for a much later point in time. We're going to get to telling people where we can be found here very soon, Karl. But in the meantime and in between time, we have another show, which again, I had previously announced was coming out the day that this comes out. But it's actually going to come out in about a week. We're thinking about a week. We're going to put this out for you guys. So we are going to be bringing you this show right here. Here's the season 3 trailer for Beats and Beatdowns. Very proud to be bringing you guys season 3 of that show. Going to be kicking off in a big way with some great topics this season. The book is gone, finito, done. And we're just going to talk about whatever the hell we want when it comes to the connection between professional wrestling and music, because that's what we love doing. We love our music and we love wrestling. So, but Karl, I think unless you got any more tidbits about the mighty Slipknot that you want to toss in here, I think that's about what we got here for the folks.
I think so as well. I'm good. All right.
Well, hopefully you felt the pulse of the maggots by watching our track number 2 of Got the Pod Life. We want you to check out our good friends over at Rogue Energy, rogueenergy.com, where you can use that promo code OLEPODS for 10% off of your order. If you're looking for a great way to start off the end, or kind of kick off the end of this year and into a new year, a new you, a better you, Rogue Energy has got that for you. They're going to help you keep refreshed, keep hydrated, keep your mind going well with great flavors, no sugar, and vegan friendly. Over at rogueenergy.com for 10% off. Use that promo code OLEPODS. Speaking of OLE, there's where you can find us on all social media, whether it be over on the TikToks, the YouTubes, the Twitches, the Twitters, or X's they call them nowadays, whatever the kids are into. I think that we've got somebody getting stuff on those things here for us at our local establishment. But Karl, where can the wonderful people find you? All your socials, what do you got going on? All those kind of great things.
Super simple, easy. Check out my link tree, linktr.ee/Karl Karufel. That's linktr.ee/KarlKarufel. I do a number of different programs here with our local establishment. I do the Monday Night Raw watch along. I do Turnbuckle Talk on Tuesdays, and hopefully be getting back into doing some Paramindful as well. And then if I'm asked, there are times where I'm part of other shows too.
Yep, other shows, including this one right here, and Beats and Beatdowns that we got coming out for you guys right away. That's also where you're going to be able to find me, as well as, again, this coming Thursday with my... Oh, well, actually, no, Sunday's coming up sooner. Let's go to Sunday. No, I'm not there this Sunday. Let me correct myself. I'm not on Busting Out this Sunday. Chris Parrish and Tom Collahue going to be joining you this Sunday. I will be back the Sunday following. I will be also on Ring Respect Radio every Thursday with Papa's Folks, and you can find me, Prairie Pro Wrestling, on YouTube, calling all the shots there on the commentary team with Papa's Folks as well too. Thank you for joining us here on another track of Got the Pod Life from myself and Karl Karufel. Thank you. Good night. Take care.